Well, good afternoon. Let me just get this started. The computer got ahead of me here. There we go. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, and thank you so much for including me in the STEM ambassadors list for Massachusetts recently. That was a huge honor for me. And I just want to start by extending on behalf of both myself and Carl a really heartfelt thank you to all of the teachers in the room. This would not be possible without your corollaries in our life. So thank you very much. So Terrafugia and us. As we were introduced, I'm Anna Dietrich and my husband Carl here. I grew up in St. Louis, Carl grew up in California, and we made our way out to Massachusetts for the schools, for MIT, and fell in love with the Boston area and ended up starting a company and building a life here. So thank you for having us. I got my pilot's license when I was in graduate school. As was mentioned, Carl got his when he was in high school. And our entire lives, we've both been excited about things that fly. And I think even more than that, we've been excited about making the world around us a better place and using science and engineering to do that. And we're not the first to think along those lines. So Terrafugia makes flying cars. You've probably figured that out by now. And flying cars have been something that's been on our collective consciousness for almost a century now. So the first patent for a dual-use vehicle, it actually was also a boat, was granted in 1918. And now that design was never built, Felix Longobardi there, but it really shows the history of ideas like this and this sort of yearning that we've had for decades to combine the convenience of driving and the freedom of flying. So there's been a number of sort of high-profile historical attempts in flying cars. We have had the opportunity to study those and understand what worked and what didn't, because clearly you all didn't take your flying car here today. So why not? So we looked at a lot of these things. We looked at some of the technological challenges. We looked at some of the regulatory challenges, and decided that this was, in fact, something that we could do. Currently, there's over 100 published concepts for flying cars or dual-use vehicles or roadable airplanes, however you want to call it, that are currently listed as currently in process. Some of those are an individual alone inventor with a computer graphic. Some are small companies like ourselves that are working on prototyping and trying to bring a product to market, and it spans the whole spectrum in between. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone here as to why this is so important to us. We've all been in that photo. We've all been stuck in traffic. And the awful thing about being stuck in traffic is that it's one of the few times in our modern American lives where we really don't have personal freedom. You're stuck in this metal box on this piece of asphalt, and that's all there is to it. You can't go any faster than the car in front of you. You can't get off the road. You can't get out and take a walk. You're just there. So there's clearly a need for additional personal freedom and a desire to solve that problem by taking to the skies. And there's a huge economic benefit to be realized from this as well. I mean, there's the manufacturing jobs and all of that that come with a new industry, but primarily it's this drain in our productivity and our time of spending about an hour a day stuck in traffic just to get to work, to do the job that we want to do and to get back home again. So that's our motivation. Now, looking at this, we think, well, we already have general aviation, we already have small planes, we have airports all over the country. And yes, that's true. We have over 5,000 public airports around the country. On average, you're within about 20 miles of one wherever you are in the United States. And they're not very, very busy. I'm not talking about Logan and JFK. I'm talking about the Hanscoms and the Beverleys and the Minuteman fields that are one or two runways small, designed for general aviation traffic. And those really are not used. In fact, NASA identified those airports as our single largest underutilized transportation resource. So we have this huge investment around the country in state-of-the-art facilities to allow air travel, and we're not using them. So Carl and I are pilots. We looked around at this situation. So, well, why aren't we doing this, right? We've got this need. We've got this great resource. Why aren't people flying? Well, it turns out that about 10 years ago at MIT, one of the professors in the Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics and his graduate students did this study and came out with the 4 reasons why people don't fly as much as they'd like. People that have already gone through the trouble of getting a pilot's license, of taking that training, of learning those skills, and they're not flying. And it turns out that they're not flying for 4 reasons. So weather sensitivity. Small airplanes are very weather sensitive. As a pilot, I'm not myself personally trained to fly into a cloud. I can fly on a gorgeous day like this and be perfectly safe. I haven't done the additional training to be current to fly solely on instruments like your commercial pilots are. So I could do that, but that's a lot more work and a lot more expense, and it's hard for me to keep that skill current so that I would be safe to go do that on a regular basis. So weather, even cloudy weather, can be a significant limitation on personal air travel. Cost is kind of an obvious one, perhaps. Airplanes tend to be expensive, but beyond that initial purchase price, you have usage operating costs, renting a hangar at the airport, using aviation gasoline, which can be $6 or $7 a gallon and still has some lead in it, which we're trying to eliminate as an industry, but that's a very hard problem. So you have those cost issues. Then there's door-to-door travel times. You think, oh, airplanes go really fast. Well, they do when they're actually in the air going somewhere. You have a lot of overhead on the ground, and you get a little bit of a taste of this with commercial travel. The overhead comes from different things when you're flying yourself, but you still have things to do at the airport. You have to pull the plane out of the hangar, you have to warm up the engine, you have to make sure there's fuel in it, plan your flight. So there is a large amount of time that you spend on each end of your trip at the airport. And then there's the last mile problem. So airports are great. A lot of the local airports are actually in beautiful places, and they're really nice facilities, and they're fun to visit. Some of them have great little diners. But very rarely do you actually want to go just to the airport. You want to go somewhere, right? So you land at the airport in your little plane. Now what? Only about 1/3 of the airports in New England have a runner call facility. So that means you're dependent on local bus service, which actually, I got my pilot's license flying out of Hanscom, taking the bus from Alewife, so I know what that's like. So that you're dependent on local bus service or taxi cabs, or some airports have a courtesy car you can borrow. But that last mile, getting from the airport to where you really want to be, is a real challenge. So we looked at these problems and we said, well, what could solve this? Well, a flying car would solve all of these. So you land, you drive, you're not stuck because of bad weather. You can keep the plane in your garage at home, you can put your bags in it, in your driveway, drive to the airport, gas up on the way at your local gas station. The transition runs on unleaded auto gasoline, so it's better for the environment too. Your door-to-door time and hassle is minimized. When you get to the airport, the engine's already warm, the plane's already out of the hangar, you're ready to go. It takes less than a minute to convert it from a car to a plane, and you'll do a brief pre-flight and be on your way. You'll see that in the video that I'm going to show next. And this last mile problem is solved, right? Because when you land, fold up the wings, keep going, get to where you really want to be. So this was our motivation for starting to work on the transition in 2006. And all of those problems are still there, and we're very excited to be nearing a real solution to that for the marketplace. So I'm going to show a video of the transition, which is our first product. It is a street legal airplane. Slightly different set of expectations with that as opposed to a flying car. You do want to be using one of those airports. You do need to be at least an entry-level pilot to operate it. But as you'll see, it has some pretty remarkable capabilities. And this video that I'm going to show was filmed at the largest general aviation event, I think, in the world. It happens every year in July in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which for the other 11 months is basically a cornfield. But for this show, it becomes the busiest airport control tower in the entire world. And so if you love aviation, this is the place to go. And we did our first public demonstration of the transition there this past July. And actually, I just got this video from our video editing associate 2 days ago? Yesterday? So this is the first time we've ever shown this to anyone outside of my office. So I hope you enjoy it.